Welcome back. As schools prepare to reopen on the 12th of this month for the new academic year, many parents are facing financial pressure as they rush to buy stationery and other necessary materials for school. The Ministry of Education, Innovation, Youth, Sports, Arts and Culture has raised concern over reports that some schools are forcing parents to purchase stationery despite having received financial support for the 2025-2026 period. Now, to provide clarity on the roles of both parents and schools as the academic year begins, we're joined by Madam Edda Bohn, the ED at the Ministry, to give some further insight. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you, Nina, and thank you for inviting us, and compliments for this new season, and also to all the viewers.
Thank you, and same to you, and thank you so much for being here this evening.
Yeah.
I feel like every time January comes around, we have this conversation, but perhaps we need to provide clarity yet again, so that we can see some changes happening, you know, when it comes to this issue. Now, as I mentioned, schools are opening next week, and so talk to us about the key responsibilities to start with, Madam Bohn, of schools and parents in ensuring, you know, that learners are ready for classes.
Yeah, of course, as a parent, you are the primary caregiver of your child, your offspring, who ends up to be a learner, once enrolled in school and once being a student then. So that we build onto that. So parents have a responsibility that the children are nourished and clothed, and so that they are ready to resume school. Yeah. So that means it is the food and the school uniform and other related consumables. And then, of course, our first thought comes to stationery and the school bag. Yeah. So number one responsibility is, of course, the school uniform and the school bag. But there should be a possibility to obtain used, that second-hand school uniform through the school. We encourage schools to operate a mechanism where those under-resourced or underprivileged learners can be supported with a school uniform, or where we can also be a bit lenient in allowing them to gradually adjust and have the school uniform ready then, as the time proceeds. But in terms of the stationery, it is customary that schools give long lists of, you know, and they might include even, you know, consumables regarding cleaning and, you know, other things, toilet paper, printing paper. We heard about air freshener and handy Andy and so on. So that should be minimized because the ministry does provide a budget for cleaning materials and, you know, all these other consumables. And that is what we try to reiterate. Of course, as a parent, you are there to fight for the best interest for your child. And through the school boards, which jointly, as a school community, decide on how they support their learners and the school in totality, it should be agreed on what can be provided for and what can be supplemented. So, but we are strong advocates of that we should not make these lists mandatory and say unless you have your package that's, you know, costed at 1,500, you are not allowed to participate. So that is totally against the law. Yeah. And therefore, the ministry has deployed the resources to the regions to the tune of 129 million. For procuring stationery. And many regions are busy decentralizing that funding to the school. And that comes on top of what we have, the school grant funding. And the school grant funding, we have 300 for primary and 400 for secondary per annum. And then these amounts, when it comes to a special needs learner, these amounts are respectively multiplied by 5. So that is a substantive amount that's to the tune of more than 250, close to 300 million, including the the resource schools to be supported in enriching teaching and learning. So that is the provision from government side. And we have been advocating for this procurement of stationery and textbooks for a long time. So it should not be how should I say,
a prerequisite.
Yes, not a bone of contention, and it should also not be a conditionality. So unless you have the stationery, you cannot participate. Yes. So that may not be the case, and schools should provide, at least for those who cannot provide for themselves.
Does the ministry, or is the ministry taking any steps to monitor and ensure that the schools comply with these regulations that have come from the Ministry of Education concerning stationery and other requirements?
Yes, the ministry, these are public funds, yes, taxpayers' funds. And so every school principal, inspector of education, and quality assurance officer of the Ministry of Education, articulating, through the ranks up to the director of education in the region, up to myself and the executive director, are accountable. And so we have accountability reports that are periodically requested. So in the past we had, cut the year in two, so it was per semester, but we also have to align to the reporting as, the fiscal year reporting, which is in quarters. So we speak also of our annual plans and performance agreements going in quarters. And so the quarterly reviews include these accountability reports. Right. And there is also provision made through the Education Act for auditing of school funding and school expenditures. So that is in place. It can be strengthened, and the ministry will continue to strengthen these accountability mechanisms, monitoring and evaluation.
Outside of, putting this unnecessary pressure on the parents to supply the cleaning material and the stationery that, as you've mentioned, the ministry has made provision for, we're also seeing that some schools, public schools, government schools, are asking parents to pay a registration fee. I mean, as I mentioned in my introduction, this is a really stressful time of the year to begin with. You've got your budget and everything that you need to supply for your children, uniform, etc., that's not covered. And now, a government school is asking for a registration fee. Talk to us about that, because I know that also is not ethical. It's not supposed to be that way. Is the ministry aware of that?
Yeah, we have been alerted about some cases where registration fees are requested, and also what they say, like a holding fee to hold my space open or something like that. That is not lawful, So we may not allow that, and that you say you buy your place in school. That is illegal. And even the registration fee, the ministry will investigate further through the regional directorate and the inspectors who are the immediate custodians of quality assurance at schools, to check that they are compliant with the existing policies, and which is a fee-free education. So that will have to follow up. But here, being on national radio, television, I would like to emphasize that, of course, such fees are not allowed.
Yeah. In the event that a parent does find this happen to them, they've gone to the school, they're being asked for a registration fee, they're being asked to provide a stationery list, they're being asked to provide, cleaning products, they've been given a list, and they're being made to feel like this is mandatory. And as we know now that it is not, if you want to do this voluntarily, by all means, yes, but it shouldn't be mandatory, and it should not prevent a learner from being accepted or, being given education because the parent can't afford to give these things. What avenues can a parent take? Where do they go to report this? What can they do?
Yeah, the usual mechanism is to alert the inspector, through the school board, or if you feel like, or if parents feel that they have reached a dead-end road with the school principal, and they have access to the school board, then they should really explore that avenue. Also to find out, if you are a new parent at the school, you might not be familiar with all these structures. So then it's through the circuit office, the circuit inspector, or directly to the regional director or ourselves. So that is, of course, obvious, and we are open. We have an open door policy at all levels, so we should be accessible to assist where we can, and of course we will assist.
Yeah. Just lastly, Madam Bohn, another issue that we see reoccurring at the start of the year is that there are learners who unfortunately haven't received a place in a school by the start of January or by the time the schools open, and I'm sure it's going to be the case this year as well. And we see that parents do go to the schools themselves. Sometimes they're successful, other times they're not. But what is the correct avenue that they should take if they've got a grade 1, grade 8, or any grade learner that hasn't, received a place in one of their grades for 2026 at this stage?
Of course, parents have preferences for the schools, but school space is limited. And so whenever they have not received a place yet, through whatever the circumstances were, we encourage them to work through the regional office. If the regional office is too far away, then they must get to the closest school, of course, and the school has to assist then to communicate this need for additional space to the regional office, because we can also not expect everybody who has not all financial means to travel to the regional office, and then, there are procedures involved. I mean, steps that we need to establish additional classrooms and or to institute platooning, that is double shift at schools, which are always avenues to accommodate those who have not been accommodated yet. And then for the more senior grades, we find sometimes that in some regions, some schools are underpopulated, so then we might move learners, provided that there is hostel accommodation for them, to a region and a school where there is still space.
Fantastic. Well, just lastly, Madam Bohn, what message would you like to send, to both parents and school administrators as the 2026 school year begins?
2026, it's just a beautiful number. If you take the 2 2s, that makes 4, plus 6 makes 10, 10 is a
good number.
A good number. So really we should capitalize on the positivity that is around the 2026, and we should also see challenges that we might face as opportunities to turn them around, as I've said before, rephrase, and let's meet each other halfway to create really that conducive environment that we need. And if it means that a parent cannot afford to pay or to provide all the required goods, then perhaps they can provide their in-kind service also and participate, therefore meaningful in creating this conducive learning environment for our learners. But most of all, please let us communicate all the time openly, especially concerning the safety of our learners and at all levels, and we do not want to jeopardize the safety of our learners at all times. There should be appropriate supervision from both angles, parents and guardians as well as schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam Bohn.
Yeah.
That was Edda Bohn, the Executive Director in the Ministry of Education, speaking to us there. Our conversations around the new school year